Hey guys, we are gathered here today to witness the batshit craziness of the Bible. Our reading is from the book of Exodus, a book I like to refer to as a special baby-side story. The Bible is full of tales like this. You had water genocide, there's a fire genocide of Sodom and Gomorrah. The Egyptians are lucky because they get all the flavors of torment. Okay, let's get to the book of Exodus, chapters 9 and 10. The plague on livestock. Then the Lord said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go, so they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go and continue to hold them back, the hand of the Lord will bring a terrible plague on your livestock in the field, on your horses, donkeys, and camels, and on the cattle, sheep, and goats. Did God kill the cats too? Weren't the Egyptians into cats? One of their goddesses had a head of a cat. That was Bast. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and that of Egypt, so that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die. The Lord set a time and said, Tomorrow the Lord will do this in the land. And the next day the Lord did it. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one animal belonging to the Israelites died. Pharaoh investigated and found that not even one of the animals of the Israelites had died. Yet his heart was unyielding, and he would not let the people go. The plague of boils. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Take handfuls of soot from a furnace and have Moses toss it into the air in the presence of Pharaoh. It will become fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, and the festering boils will break out on people and animals throughout the land. Think about it. If God was real, he could give us all boils just because of something President Trump tweeted. Oh, you didn't vote for him? God doesn't care. No one voted for Pharaoh. So they took soot from a furnace and stood before Pharaoh. Moses tossed it into the air, and festering boils broke out on people and animals. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils that were on them and all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said to Moses. The plague of hail. Then the Lord said to Moses, Get up early in the morning, confront Pharaoh, and say to him, This is what the Lord said. The God of Hebrews says, Let my people go, so that they may worship me. For this time I'll send a full force of my plagues against you, and standing against you and against your officials and your people, so you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you with your people with a plague that would have wiped you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power, that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. What does that mean? I have raised you up so I can drop a plague on you, so you can see how awesome my power is. Couldn't God have just showed them an iPhone, and everyone in ancient Egypt would have been impressed? You still set yourself against my people and will not let them go. Therefore, at this time tomorrow, I will send the worst hailstorm that has ever fallen on Egypt, from the day it was founded until now. Give an order now to bring your livestock and everything you have in the field to a place of shelter, because the hail will fall on every person and animal that has not been brought in and is still out in the field, and they will die. Those officials of the Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried to bring their slaves and their livestock inside. But those who ignored the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the field. How is it there's still livestock? Didn't God kill them in just a few paragraphs ago? I don't know. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand towards the sky, so that hail will fall all over Egypt, on people and animals, and on everything growing in the fields of Egypt. When Moses stretched out his staff toward the sky, the Lord sent thunder and hail, and lightning flashed down to the ground. So the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt. Hail fell and lightning crashed back and forth. It was the worst storm in all the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. Throughout Egypt, hail struck everything in the fields, both people and animals. It beat down everything growing in the fields and stripped every tree. The only place it did not hail was in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron. This time I have sinned, he said to them. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Pray to the Lord, for we have had enough thunder and hail. I will let you go. You don't have to stay any longer. Moses replied, when I have gone out of the city, I will spread out my hands and pray to the Lord. The thunder will stop, and there will be no more hail. So you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But I know that you and your officials still do not fear the Lord God. The flax and barley were destroyed, since the barley had headed and the flax was in bloom. The wheat and spelt, however, were not destroyed, because they ripen later. That's a little bit of agricultural news there from the Old Testament. Then Moses left Pharaoh and went out to the city. He spread out his hands towards the Lord, and the thunder and hail stopped, and the rain no longer poured down on the land. When Pharaoh saw that the rain and hail and thunder had stopped, he sinned again. Again. He and his officials hardened their hearts, so Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had said through Moses. The plague of locusts. Then the Lord said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his officials, so that I may perform these signs of mine among them, that you may tell your children and your grandchildren how I dealt harshly with Egyptians and how I performed my signs among them, and that you may know that I am the Lord. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, this is what the Lord, the God of Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? And I was just thinking about it. Maybe Pharaoh cared a lot for Moses' people. Maybe he didn't want them to leave, because that would mean they'd be held captive to a sociopathic God. The winners write the stories. If the Egyptians had won, then Yahweh would be a supervillain to this story. Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will bring locusts into your country tomorrow. They will cover the face of the ground, so that it cannot be seen. They will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. They will fill your houses and those of all your officials and the Egyptians, something neither your parents nor your ancestors have ever seen from the day they settled in this land till now. Then Moses turned and left Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials said to him, how long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go, so that they may worship the Lord, their God. Do you not yet realize that Egypt is ruined? Then Egypt and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. Go worship the Lord your God, he said, but tell me, who will be going? Moses answered, we will go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, and with our flocks and herds, because we are to celebrate a festival to the Lord. Pharaoh said, the Lord be with you. If I let you go along with your women and children, clearly you are bent on evil. No, have only the men go and worship the Lord, since that's what you've been asking for. Then Moses and Aaron were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over Egypt, so that locusts swarm over the land and devour everything growing in the fields, everything left by the hail. So Moses stretched out his staff over Egypt, and the Lord made an east wind blow across the land all that day And all that night, by morning, the wind had brought the locusts. They invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area of the country in great number. Never before had there been such a plague of locusts, nor will there ever be again. They covered all the ground until it was black. They devoured all that was left after the hail, everything growing in the fields and the fruit on the trees. Nothing green remained on a tree or plant in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God. This has just been over and over again. And against you. Now forgive my sin once more and pray to your Lord your God to take this deadly plague away from me. I like that kind of cadence. Moses then left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. And the Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind, which caught up the locusts and carried them into the Red Sea. Not a locust was left anywhere in Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. Man, that's a rough deal for the Egyptians. The plague of the darkness. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand towards the sky, so that darkness spreads over Egypt, darkness that can be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward the sky, and total darkness covered all Egypt for 3 days. Not one could see anyone else or move about for 3 days, yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, go worship the Lord. Even your women and children may go with you. Only leave your flocks and herds behind. But Moses said, you must allow us to have sacrifices and burnt offerings to present to the Lord our God. Our livestock too must go with us. Not a hoof to be left behind. We have to use them in worshiping the Lord our God. And until we get there, we will not know what we are to use to worship the Lord. But the Lord, guess what? But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was not willing to let them go. Pharaoh said to Moses, get out of my sight. Make sure you do not appear before me again. The day you see my face, you will die. You will die. Just as you say, Moses replied, I will never appear before you again. So that's it. That's chapters 9 and 10 are done. We're heading to the last plague. We're going to wrap this up pretty fast. We're going to make these videos a lot faster. Thanks for watching. Take care. Subscribe.